A federal appeals court ruled that a Mississippi police officer who had driven and left a disabled man at the county line wasn't liable for the man's death after he was struck and killed by a passing vehicle. Very complicated case, but it's pretty straightforward in what the police officer did wrong. I have legal journalist Molly Barrows with me to talk about it. Lay out the facts of this case. I mean, I read the first 3 or 4 paragraphs of the case, and it's clear to me. Due process, equal protection, all these constitutional issues come into mind. But the appellate court, Fifth Circuit, probably one of the worst circuits in the country, says we don't see any problem here.
Oh, my gosh. And when you hear the facts of this case, you think, why don't you see any problems with this? And basically what happened is this particular officer, Darren Fleming, was assisting 2 city police officers in this city in Mississippi. And it was the town of Kosciuszko, and the county was Attala, pardon me. And so he was assisting these city officers who found this man, Gerald Simpson, walking in the middle of the road. He couldn't speak clearly. Turns out he had a speech impediment. He'd been treated recently at a local hospital for developmental disabilities. He lived with his sister, who was essentially his caretaker, and he'd gotten out that night. So he was walking in the middle of the road. The city officers find him. This deputy comes and assists, puts him in the back of his patrol car, takes him to the county line, and basically says he's giving him a ride home, but he never asks for his identification. He never asks for any kind of information that could help lead him to some family member or to where this guy actually lives. So he took him to the county line, which, when this man's family, where he was hit and killed. So he drops him off, leaves him, makes sure he's walking out of Attala County, and then he takes off. And Mr. Simpson was later hit and struck by another vehicle that night and killed. And his family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, not only against this officer, but also against the 2 city officers in the city
let me lay this out just a little bit on the legal aspect. First of all, this is a county that does this, city and a county that work this little scam all the time. Homeless person, somebody who's drunk and maybe just living on the street, they don't know what to do with. They just take him to the county line, drop him off. Obviously, this police officer concluded because he had a mental disability, this man had a mental disability, his speech impediment, probably concluded that he was drunk and that he was a homeless man, although he was being taken care of by his sister, as you point out. What really sends me over the edge on this is the Fifth Circuit saying there was no constitutional violation here in what happened. Due process. Okay, would we have not at least given this guy the opportunity or somebody to explain he has a mental disability, he has a speech impediment.
Didn't bother to look into it.
Or how about equal protection? You think if this character was dressed up in a suit with a tie, carrying a briefcase, that this cat would have driven him to the county line and dropped him?
Absolutely not. He would have said, like, oh, where do you live? How can we help you? You know, you appear to be an upstanding tax-paying citizen. But basically, they said that he was entitled to qualified immunity, this officer was, and that's why he couldn't be sued for wrongful death, which essentially allows a government official to be shielded from civil liability if it doesn't violate a person what's called their clearly established constitutional rights. And they were saying in this particular instance, it wasn't clearly established that his constitutional rights were violated because, and I'm not entirely sure I follow their reasoning, but it's like... A first-year law
student would look at the facts of this case. A first-year law student would say, what about due process? What about equal protection? This guy looks different than Mr. Businessman.
So it wasn't equal protection.
There was no equal protection here, and that's a basic, fundamental constitutional right. How about due process? This officer makes the determination, hey, I'm just going to be the judge and the jury. I'm going to carry him to the county line. I'm not going to make any effort to figure out what's his disability. He doesn't sound right. He's not speaking right. I can't smell alcohol, but something's wrong here.
Well, and what do you do if you're not there to serve and protect? You're only there to serve and protect the people that you feel like qualify to have their constitutional rights protected. And in this case, I was surprised that they actually upheld that decision. A lower court said that they had actually dismissed the case against the 2 city officers in the city, but they had allowed it to move forward against the county and this particular deputy. So it was this, this Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that basically overruled the lower court's decision.
Nothing good comes from the Fifth Circuit, and we're always everybody. We talk about segments all the time. You know, the typical voter out there thinks, oh, I got to worry about the White House, I got to worry about Senate, I got to worry about the House of Representatives. They miss the fact that all the ugliest things happen at the trial court level, the appellate court level, and when they start packing those, when those are packed with ideologues, This is the kind of thing that happens.
Well, that's exactly what I wondered too, Pap. And I know you're wrapping it up, but I thought, how could they justify this decision? It's one of those things it just seems obvious. They should have been doing their jobs and protecting this man. At the very least, should have taken him someplace where they could have gotten to the bottom of who he was.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, maybe they just decided this deputy's career wasn't worth ruining.
You could ask any lawyer in the country, and they'll say, "Oh, it's the Fifth Circuit." I mean, isn't that awful when it gets to that point?
Terrible.
Thank you for joining me. Okay.
Thanks, Pap.